The other children called him Prince Blubber. Not to his face, of course. Prince Blubber was too dangerous for that. He was a mountain of a boy, even at 10 years old, his limbs already thick as tree trunks, his belly a rumbling, jiggling landscape of indulgence. He wasn't just big, he was magnificent in his immensity, a child sculpted from surplus and scowls. He was Prince Remils, third in line to the Eckridge throne, and he knew it. He also knew his place wasn't to be a good little prince, but a force of nature. He didn't play tag, he charged. He didn't share toys, he confiscated them. And he certainly didn't say please or thank you. Gratitude in his mind was weakness, and Remils was never weak. His meals were legendary. While the other children nibbled at dainty portions of roasted pheasant, Remils devoured whole platters, his jowls working overtime. He'd swat away the serving maids with a greasy hand, bellowing for more spiced mutton, more honeyed figs, more of whatever caught his eye. His table manners were non-existent, a whirlwind of crumbs and spilled gravy. His father, the king, a man weathered like an old oak, sighed with exasperation. Remils was everything he wasn't, impulsive, gluttonous, and utterly devoid of grace. He tried to instill discipline, sending the boy to tutors, attempting to teach him the delicate art of diplomacy, and even some appetite control. But Remils just yawned through the lessons, his gaze fixed on the approaching lunch cart. "Why must you be so unpleasant, Remils?" the king asked one day, his voice heavy with weariness. Remils merely grunted, stuffing a pastry into his mouth. He didn't understand why he should be otherwise. The world, to him, was a banquet laid out for his consumption, and those who didn't understand were simply in the way. One afternoon, a particularly frustrating game of royal hide-and-seek ended with Remils collapsing onto a prize-winning rosebush, crushing it to pieces. When the head gardener, a wiry old man named Silas, dared to scold him, Remils simply stuck out his tongue and bellowed, "You're a stupid gnome, go plant more weeds." Silas, who had cultivated the royal gardens for decades, simply shook his head. "You are a terrible boy, Remils," he said, his voice surprisingly calm. "And you will only be a terrible king someday." The prince paused, a half-eaten tart suspended in midair. The word king resonated with him, not for the responsibility, but for the power. He'd always been powerful, yes, but a king, that was a different kind of power. A power that wouldn't need to ask for seconds, that wouldn't need to share, a power that could simply take. A slow, almost imperceptible smile began to spread across his face. It wasn't a friendly smile, not the kind that promised warmth or kindness. It was the smile of a predator, a smile that spoke of dominance and insatiable appetite. He finished the tart, crumbs clinging to his chin, and looked at Silas with a newfound intensity. "Maybe I will," he rumbled, his voice low and rumbling like distant thunder. "Maybe I will be a terrible king." And in that moment, amidst the crushed roses and the scattered crumbs, a future king was unknowingly born. He wasn't the king his father hoped for, not the noble and wise ruler who would guide his kingdom to prosperity.